My name is Amy Tam Liao, and this is my husband, Shipei Liao. Our daughter, Allison Hope, was killed by a reckless driver last October. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Intro 238A creates a criminal misdemeanor charge for reckless drivers who do not meet the test for driving while intoxicated. The single most important thing the City Council can do is to create meaningful criminal penalties for reckless drivers who injure or kill. Our precious daughter, Allie, was taken from us by a reckless driver who struck her and her grandmother in the crosswalk while they walked hand in hand with the right-of-way. Like so many reckless drivers who kill, the driver who killed Allie told police that he did not see anybody before turning, but clearly he did not look. To our disbelief, the driver was allowed to drive away from the scene and was later given 2 traffic tickets. The Queens County DA would not prosecute the driver. Our lives have been shattered by the loss of Allie, but the only consequence the driver faces is a couple of traffic tickets. It's no wonder that the hundreds of New Yorkers are killed every year by reckless drivers.
Sorry. We have obtained the videotape showing the crash. It's not easy for us to show this, but it's important to see the truth behind the stories that drivers and sometimes even police sometimes tell about traffic violence. As you watch this video, please remember that the driver said he looked before turning. And also remember that on that day she died, an unnamed police source told the Daily News that Allie had broken free from her grandmother before she was killed. Look at this videotape and make up your own mind. Did the driver look before turning? Did Allie break free and go run about on the street? We must no longer trivialize reckless driving by calling these death accidents. It is obvious to see from the videotape that the driver did not look before turning into the crosswalk. It was when the act of recklessness that we as a city must declare to be a crime. This is what Intro 238A does. If Intro 238A had been effective last year, the reckless act of this driver would have been treated, at least presumably, as a crime. Police would have investigated it like a crime instead of telling stories about breaking free from our grandmother. The police and the DA would have done more careful investigating in the role of the driver's intoxication and causing the crash, rather than just dismissing it without any explanation. Most importantly, if this was defined as a crime, the driver might have stopped, looked, and taken care before turning, instead doing whatever he was doing. Intro 238A must be enacted, and it should be strengthened. $250 is not a fair penalty for killing or seriously injuring a person. The penalty should be in the thousands, not in the hundreds of dollars. I'd like to thank the council member Weprin, Rodriguez, and Levine for supporting for this important legislation.
Members of the Transportation Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. As a lawyer representing the Liaos and other crash victims, I can tell you that while the graphic quality of that video is unusual, the events depicted are all too common. Just like Ali Liao, about half of the 150 or so pedestrians killed each year are killed in the crosswalk with the right-of-way. The problem is that we treat lives like Ali Liao's as if they were cheap. It sounds shocking to say, but when you look at what we do instead of what we say, this is what our actions show. And there's no clear indication of that attitude, that the fact that so many in law enforcement view traffic crashes as outside of their core mission Intro 238A can change that. Driving in a dense, pedestrian-rich city like New York City is so very dangerous. At every moment, there's an imminent risk of killing with just 1 second of inattention, with just one flick of the hand, as you saw. This City Council has the authority and the mandate and the duty to say that we are all on notice of these enormous risks of driving in the city. We have to put the lives of people like Allie and Cooper and so many others ahead of the convenience of someone who wants to save a couple minutes or experience the exhilaration of speeding down a city street. Traffic deaths and the risks that cause them are not unpredictable. They are routine and ubiquitous. Lives are not cheap, they are precious. We need meaningful consequences, criminal penalties for drivers who strike pedestrians and cyclists with the right-of-way. Make reckless driving a crime and put deterrence of reckless driving into the core mission of the NYPD and the district attorney's offices. It's a necessary step to achieving Vision Zero. 238A is a necessary step, but it should be strengthened in two ways. First, the $250 penalty is too small for a case involving a fatality. Secondly, the original version of the bill made it a misdemeanor to strike a cyclist in a bike lane, and that's missing from the current vision. It should be put back in. We want cyclists to use bike lanes. We want motorists to use the utmost care when they're driving across a bike lane. The only way to get there is with a misdemeanor for striking cyclists in the bike lane. The last thing I'll say is that this misdemeanor is not a draconian penalty. If I go out and drink a beer on my stoop this weekend, I can be charged with a misdemeanor. Shouldn't I get a misdemeanor charge if I run over you while you're sitting on yours? That's what this bill is about. Please enact Intro 238A and please extend its protection to cyclists. Thank you.